Welcome, O listener, to another episode of Spam Humbug. This is episode 152 of the podcast, I think, and we have an amazing discussion lined up for you. We were fortunate to be rejoined by Joe Garrity, also known as the proprietor of the Origin Museum. And, of course, if you've ever bothered to check out gallery.ultimacodex.com, you're probably aware, or actually, too, now that I think about it, if you've ever bought any of the Ultima games, well, some of the Ultima games via GOG, Ultima 6, Ultima 7, I think Ultima 9, there's a lot of really cool design documents that have been released for those games, and they all stem from Joe's efforts and the relationships that he has fostered with developers who worked at Origin Systems. They send him things, and he has been more than gracious to share many of the wonderful behind-the-scenes glimpses that we've had over the years. So, naturally, he decided to do that again. And in this particular episode, you'll actually hear as we go through a folder full of Ultima 7 related documentation, and we find 7 or 8 really interesting pieces therein, just, giving us behind the scenes look at the game and actually revealing a couple of things that we didn't previously know about the game as well. And all of that is going to be available. Joe has scanned everything for us, so the documents will be attached to the Patreon release of this episode, at least if I'm allowed to attach that many files. And they'll also, of course, be released on gallery.ultimacodex.com when this episode goes live to the general public. So be sure to listen in. It's a fascinating voyage of discovery through and through. Also, I haven't given this reminder in a while, but we are hosted on Anchor.fm. It's a newer podcast hosting platform, now a Spotify product, I believe. So you can find us at Anchor.fm/SSSH podcast or, at spamhumbug.com. By all means, if you're listening to us in the Anchor app, please consider favoriting our episodes or, the podcast itself. And if you do the smart home thing, being on Anchor means that we are integrated with both Apple HomePod and Google Home. So ask the digital assistant of your choice to play the podcast Spam Humbug and see what happens. And of course, we are on Patreon, patreon.com/ultimacodex, if you would like to support the podcast and the codex. And thank you to everyone who does so already. And especially a hearty thank you to our co-producers, Seth, Goldenflame, Dominic, Violation, Helgruff, Gronk, Pascal, Thorwan, and John. Alrighty. I don't think I want to keep you waiting anymore. Let's get on with the show.
Big K, what's up?
The ceiling.
No. You're not here for the dad jokes. That's Helgraff's job.
I have 4 kids. I am eminently qualified.
We've already established this before you decided to grace us with your presence.
All good.
Yes, it is.
Oh, bother. Nope, it's not plugged in. That doesn't work.
Nikon. Nice.
Yeah, because sometimes I attempt to use... I'm still trying to get the Z50 to work with Discord, but it doesn't work. It has problems.
I like
Fine. I look completely unkempt. No makeup. I look like
you look
shit.
fantastic.
Oh no, you look so terrible.
Hey, you should just you're gorgeous.
You should just go in a corner somewhere and just turn off the light and be miserable.
You're in the filter like right now.
Excellent.
Do that for about 15 minutes, then come back when you're fine with yourself again, and we'll all just have a laugh, okay?
I always call that voice menthol lady voice. And I always use the line that she's been smoking for...
Yes,
now that I'm closer to 40, I always claim I've been smoking for 50 years, even though I'm not even that old.
This is absolutely chain smoker lady voice.
Yeah. They fucking crack up. I will do that during Discord voice chat. People are like, who's this old woman playing the game and kicking her ass? I'm like,
yeah.
That's exactly what's happening, dearie. And don't you ever forget it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you here for the achievements, boys? Not tonight.
One time Homer ate too much and got food stuck in his teeth. And it wasn't little, it was a chicken wing.
All right, Patty. Or was it Selma? It's hard
Where's
to tell.
Jub?
oh, the Selma and Louise voice is so bad.
I got to tell you, this whole thing is a crime and a shame. Why do you think we're going like this now anyhow?
It's nice. I like that. I can't do that accent. Kenneth, told you I'd bring you the real stuff.
Ah, the Zacapa. Nice.
I do have a bottle of 25-year-old Macallan's, but I'm not opening that very expensive bottle.
I'm mixing
No. This is just spam humbug.
Yeah, that's like best friend getting married bottle.
That's what I gave my that's what I gave my one of my groomsmen.
Or alternatively, best friend just had a terrible tragedy bottle.
Well, that too.
Yeah,
You can go either way.
Yeah, she loves scotch too.
Yeah, what's that? Oh, Seamus, would you mind when I... Oh, there you go. Would
This
you
is the
mind when I
stout
die?
barrel
Would you
edition.
pour a bottle of Irish whiskey over me grave? And Seamus said, that's fine, but do you mind if I pass it through me kidneys first?
Hey, here's a hell of a thing. How do you drinking these fancy alcohols? And here I am with a privatized, commercialized crap diet soda because I've got the diabetes.
What is the black Pepsi? What is that?
That's the Coke Zero with Pepsi.
Zero bullshit. Yeah.
Zero sugar Pepsi.
I've never seen that.
You know what? Fag, you want to call it bullshit? That's fine. I don't get to drink real soda anymore, so this is what I have left. And no, while I can drink water, I'm not just going to drink water.
I'm 100% with you on that. It sucks, though. Still.
Hey.
Although, admittedly, I haven't got the Jameson in cup right now. This is actually... So, this is not water either. So, while I was out and about today... so, apparently here, unlike in Alberta, this is a weird thing to me, okay? So in Alberta, liquor sales are wholly privatized. We used to have a government liquor board and they ran all the stores, but now liquor sales totally privatized. So it's just, chain liquor stores, mom and pop liquor stores, whatever, right?
I'm looking at Alberta. It's over there.
Here, the liquor stores are still entirely government owned and operated. Okay? But unlike in Alberta, the grocery stores sell beer and wine.
As it should be.
That's the way my state is.
That's the way I look at it. It's the way
I'm used to seeing that in America. It's strange to see it in Canada. This is actually the only place in Canada I've encountered it. It may happen in other places in Canada, but this is the only place I've encountered it so far.
They should start doing it in more places in Canada. It's just the right thing.
Blue laws are really interesting state to state in the U.S. In my state, they used to only be able to sell it till midnight. So quite literally, at 12 o'clock, the guy behind the counter has to go and run a chain through the handles of all of the cooler areas so that you can't buy any beer or wine anymore.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
So this is a locally produced wine. It advertises itself as being sort of akin to a Pinot Grigio, but it's a little sweeter than that, and it finishes with a hint of rhubarb. Ooh. It's nice.
Ooh.
This is the Amway energy drink. It's a naughty little wine.
Wait, what?
It's the Amway version of Red Bull.
You did say Amway. Okay.
My son-in-law, God bless his heart. He thinks he's going to be a millionaire.
I'm doing my best not to laugh out loud.
Oh, I don't care. I'm going to laugh. Doesn't matter.
Oh, well,
I don't know what it's called.
You probably heard snort/snicker through my nose, but...
I wouldn't do that if you're drinking Pepsi Zero.
The can is empty.
Oh, well then you're fine. Until you crack the next one open.
That's got real fake sugar flavoring in it. Be careful.
Yes, I know.
Ooh.
And then there's,
cranberry juice.
Well, yes. Beautiful diet cranberry juice from concentrate.
What is it with the cranberry marketing, man? They're putting cranberries in everything. Is there one marketing genius who's like, you got apple juice? Let's put cran apple, and we'll go cran grape.
Yeah, I don't know who handles cranberries PR, but
what the heck is that all about?
Health fad trending. There's this whole thing where for a while there, like people were convinced that cranberries were helping their kidney function or cleansing or other such, assorted BS. I just like the flavor.
It doesn't clean your kidneys out. That's what I always heard.
Well, I think it's like if you have a UTI and you're on a course of medication for it, cranberry can aid with your recovery. But it's a mild benefit at most, I think.
Yeah, it's just minor benefit. But
I will say this:
And like most things at Cranberry, well, it's got a bunch of vitamin C in it. So if you don't happen to be already getting an overdose of vitamin C,
because it's not in everything else.
Yeah, it's just like
on the upside,
it's good for you.
Yeah, vitamin C is water soluble, so you literally can't overdose on it. Anything your body doesn't use, it just goes right out the next time you take a piss.
Yep. Waiting 15 minutes after eating before you go swimming, that's still real, right?
Sort of.
I've never been 100% sold on that particular theory. I'm pretty sure they've actually proven that the science is bullwash, or what was claimed to be the science more accurately.
It varies person to person, but basically, when you're that close to having eaten, of course, your stomach is still digesting. And so for some people, and probably a fairly decent set of people, I don't know if it's like a minority or a majority, but for a goodly number of people, any kind of intense physical exertion, including swimming, that close to having eaten while your stomach is trying to digest, can produce like cramping and some muscular spasm.
I have to tell you when the jokes actually come. I mean, that, if you guys are waiting for the A material, this is it. So
I'm waiting for the hi-hat to be hit. Yeah.
Oh,
well, you know what? We should let Joe talk.
Trust me, you're 100% on board with the standard level of humor in these podcasts. So,
but I got to tell you, actually, that is kind of the purpose of tonight. Not to let me talk, to let you guys talk.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, should I intro this? Should I just run into it?
I mean, I can. Yeah,
as long as you don't hit it too hard. We don't want you to hurt yourself just to make a joke.
Well, here, let me give a little bit of background, maybe, and Joe can correct me as he sees fit. So, for those of you who are tuning in and have never heard of this man, Joe Garrity has been, I mean, in many respects, he is like, a consummate Origin Systems fan. And he has amassed over the, let's not even talk about what the treasure trove he has amassed. Let's talk first about the relations.
Didn't he have the museum?
Well, but let's first have a quick mention of the fact that before any of that, this gentleman established just genuinely personable relationships with a number of people at Origin Systems, including Richard Garriott. And so over the years, as he has fostered these relationships and friendships with people from Origin, they have sent him all manner of wonderful materials. In fact, when Origin was ultimately shuttered, every developer took home that which was precious to them. Then they had a big bonfire and burned a lot more. But whatever didn't get taken home or burned got put in boxes, and most of those ended up on Joe's porch. And in fact, some of the stuff that did get taken home later found its way to Joe's porch as well, as the developers, had to clear out their garages and what have you. So starting with the very personal relationships that he fostered with people at Origin, Joe has amassed, and Helgrif, you mentioned it there, the Origin Museum, a treasure trove of materials from a goodly chunk of the history of Origin. And, like those of us who are on the podcast right now can see some of the examples. Like that's a genuine, that's the original YOLO crossbow. There's a sword over there. I don't think you can quite see the claw, but somewhere back in there, there's the claw that killed Luke Skywalker in that One Wing Commander. Like the actual prop claw that killed Mark Hamill. It's hilarious. And of course, that planet you see right there is, if you remember the Origin Systems product catalog that came with Ultima 7, that's the original print.
That's the original artwork. That's the hand paint. That's the hand painted artwork. Anyway, well, Kenneth, thank you very much. I mean, you're building me up into a lot that I am not, and a little that I am. Basically, I'm just a fan like everybody else. I just took it to the nth degree, and Origin people, for anybody who doesn't realize it, are as cool as everybody believes them to be. They really are the people from the games, and they're just awesome folks. And they were nice enough to clean out their attics and garages and instead of throwing their stuff to the curb, they would remember a nice little couple in Virginia that they would donate their stuff to, and it was really nice. So with that actually in mind, this is where Withstand the Fury Dragon comes in, because he and I have been friends for years, and we've talked about all this stuff. And we were talking about, correct my memory here, Kenneth, the Ed Del Castillo write-up for Ultima 9, one of the original plot lines.
Right.
One of the original scripts.
Yeah, so I think you pulled it out of a box that Bill Randolph sent you, if memory serves. And, I mean, when you initially found it, like, you brought it to me, and, you thought, you're like, I think this is Ultima 9, but it's not like the Ultima 9 that we got. And I'm looking at it, and I'm just like, well, like, it doesn't, like, it has a lot of the same beats that are in that summary of his plot that Bob White released to, like, the one that's on, like, Hacky Dragon's website. Like, maybe it's the Bob White plot. And I encouraged you to reach out to Bob himself because you had his contact details.
And that really is how the conversation went, is that we're talking about all this stuff. And he says, oh, it's a shame we don't actually have the Bob White plot, too. That's really cool. So I scanned this Ed Del Castillo document for Kenneth to put on Ultima Codex. And he says, it's a darn shame we don't have the Bob White plot. And just to clarify that, Ultima 9, nobody liked the plot line in Ultima 9. And back in 1999, I think.
99 or early 2000.
After everything kind of went south for Ultima 9 because of user complaints and, oh, it's not a real Ultima, it's not the Ultima we asked for, blah, blah, blah. Well, Kenneth and I are discussing this one night in a chat just like this. And Kenneth says, wouldn't it be great if, I wonder if Bob White still has those docs.
Well, not even that.
The document.
Not even that. We thought that we had found those documents. We thought that we were looking at the Bob White plot.
Correct.
And I encouraged you to just reach out to Bob and confirm, because you mentioned that you had his contact details.
Right.
So, at my urging, you reached out to Bob. And important note, Bob has an intense personal animus towards Ed Del Castillo. So Bob was not particularly, and it's kind of unfortunate because I've actually had a lot of correspondence with Ed over the years, and I actually really like him as a person. But anyways, not important. Bob had some very harsh things to say about the document that we had unearthed, but he identified it as not his handiwork and likely the handiwork of Ed Del Castillo. And then he went digging into his own archives and furnished us with the last revision of the Bob White plot, like the plot document and all the, like the full document, the full plot summary that he'd written, the last version that he had saved. He sent that to Joe.
7-8 pages, right?
Yeah, maybe even more.
Maybe more.
Yeah, he sent that to Joe. Joe sent it to me, and it's, it hit the codex. And funnily enough, it completely, like, after years of people sort of holding up the Bob White plot as this almost idol, like, this would have been like the best Ultima 9. The Bob White plot they got had most of the same story beats. Yeah, most of the same story beats that the actual release game had. Some of them were handled a little bit better. Some of them were a little bit more fleshed out. But then it also had a whole bunch of other story beats, like the godlike Ultima race that, Hawkwind, aka the Time Lord, was the last member of, that the community has largely been just like, oh, geez, I'm glad we didn't get that.
And everybody who complained about saying, this might not be real, this might not be a different, we ended up with 2 or 3 revisions of that Ultima 9 doc, so you could watch the progress of the documentation and how it matured, and it ended up being, in reality, very similar to the final plot that we all got at the end. Yeah. So,
and then later on, you found in, I think, Bill's box again, you found like some dungeon design documents as well, with like sketches of.
That's correct, levels. And lots more. What we left out was that not only did Bob White furnish the actual Bob White plot, he sent me, and I hope that eventually the audience can see it. an entire cardboard box filled with every single document that he was involved in and all the others during his time at Origin. He filed them all, went up into his attic, and basically sent it to me and Kenneth and went, knock yourselves out. And in it, we had found some amazing gems, like the only documentation that's ever been recovered for the Lost Veil. Lots of different things. Some very interesting Ultima 6 documents and things like that. Well, I told you that story to tell you this one. Kenneth was just recently had to move for work, and because of the pandemic, he was quarantined for 2 weeks in a hotel room. And as a favor to him, I basically said, well, why don't I call in, every couple of days just to kind of keep you company so you don't go off your nut just sitting in this room. And I decided, to pass the time and make it entertaining. I never had time to go through the rest of that box because I never like to go in there because of my ignorance, and I'm afraid I'm going to pass some kind of gold nugget and think that it is just extra, plain rocks. So I need a true Ultima expert to be looking through these with me to say, did I strike gold? Is this stuff? Now, when you find a folder that says Lost Veil on it, it's pretty obvious that you've hit the mother load, right? But the rest of them, I'm like, well, I don't know if people, because many Ultima 7 docs and developers' documentation have already been published. The Origin Museums recovered a lot of it and posted it, and Kenneth has been kind enough to post it to the Ultima Codex. But there are literally more than reams of paperwork that still I never went through. And I thought, what a wonderful way to just occupy some of Kenneth's time, and I'll just hold these papers up to the camera and say, is this worthy of my time to scan this one, or to scan this one, or to scan this one? And then I'll end up with a pile of stuff that I'll scan and then put up on the Ultima Codex. Well, Kenneth came up with the idea of going, well, wouldn't this make a pretty cool SSSH? Especially if other people get involved in it. So the idea for tonight is to literally randomly start going through some of the paperwork given to us by Bob White himself, and perhaps we'll live, with your help, uncover some gold in some of this documentation. I assume that some people here are familiar with some of the things that are already published, so please feel free as a group to go, yeah, I've seen that. That's already out on the internet. Don't worry about that. And then I'll put that in the dead pile and we'll move on. And maybe we'll find some treasure along the way. Kenneth and I found 1 or 2 pieces already. And I think I'm just going to randomly start hitting things and see if do you guys think you'd enjoy that?
I mean, I'm for it.
Yeah. Yay.
I'm not sure how much help I'll be. I'm less informed than most of these other people.
Well, that's okay.
I feel the same way. Basically, I'm always worried that I'm going to pass by something interesting. One of the greatest things about the Origin Museum is we've been blessed by so many different developers that I've had Ultima fans in here and Wing Commander fans here in the room, and they describe information about my collection that I didn't even know I had. Do you realize how rare this is, Joe? People have been looking for this for 10 years. It's like, I had no idea, So I love having people come over to my home where they can go in the basement and just start to dig. Here's a cardboard box, knock yourself out. And we always end up sitting cross-legged in the middle of the floor like 13-year-olds going through paperwork and finding interesting things to talk about. So I think I'm just going to drag the box over here and we can get started on this. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Yeah. And what's really cool is that at the end of this podcast, any gold that we find, I'll be happy to throw over on my scanner, and I'll start to scan things, which will end up being posted on the Ultima Codex for people to match up with what we're actually finding live on the fly. All right? So let's go.
Oh, it will come out on the Codex at some point. Probably not as soon as this podcast episode does, but that's all right.
Better late than never.
I'm going to start with a folder that Kenneth and I just grabbed at random. But basically, I said, what would everybody want to see? And he basically said, well, that's the way to do it. You want to start with the greatest. So let's start with Ultima 7.
Ultima 7.
A great big fat folder filled with, So
we're going to have that debate all over again, which nobody ever wins.
Which Ultima is the greatest?
I mean, I'll forgive you for not thinking that it's Ultima 6, but it is, it is Ultima 7, and it is admittedly, it is a classic in many respects. And
it is debating that.
Genre defining.
If I recall correctly, the day I got this box, I'm as giddy as a schoolgirl and jumping up and down and telling Kenneth, hey, the box came, you have to see this. And we're doing this video. And of course, I dove all over anything Lost Veil. I saw a folder called Lost Veil and went, oh my gosh, it's here. As soon as we were done drooling over that, Kenneth went, is there any Ultima 6 in there? And we found that and scanned all that. So I think all the U6 stuff has already been posted. But there's loads of things in here. So
the real question will be, will GOG come and scrape the site again to include more bonus content with the Ultima packages? But anyways, I digress. To the documents.
Copyright Origin Museum. I'll watermark all these ones. Anyway.
There you go.
Okay. So like I said, this stuff is all left random, and these are things that Kenneth and I found. Kenneth, you want to talk a little bit about this one?
Bring it a little closer to the camera just so I can get some focus there. It's always a bit of a pain in the butt. Oh, right. So this one, this is handwritten notes on, basically, I see, Brian and the orrery there. And so it's kind of this almost feels like notes taken in a meeting, right? It's just okay, how are we going to design this component of the game?
And can you read off a couple of things there?
Well, like I say, so right at the top you've got Brian and the orrery and how it should show the solar system and the astrological alignment, and the next part underneath it is notes on Catalyte and the meteor coming down and how to forge the helmet, and then notes about the Emps too. That's right, that was the other thing. Trellick, and he wants to. Are the Wisps okay? Will they talk to the party with or without something? With or without him.
So we guess that these were notes that were handwritten probably during some kind of a meeting where they were talking about plotline and information like that. This does, because they're handwritten and because they're from the day, they do have historical significance, but this was found by Kenneth completely by accident on the back of one of the pages. Kenneth, you want to explain this? This cracked me up a whole lot.
Yeah, so shit happens. Hey, there's my explicit tag for the episode. Actually, Golem, you might have already given me that one.
Yay!
But yeah, and then, it says shit happens, and then it's C:/U7:/use code prompt. So as near as we figure, this may have been a crash to prompt command, or a crash to prompt. That someone, captured and printed off. Kind of I'd turn it around too so we can see exactly who this was, right? So for those of you who are well versed in the cast of characters that went through Origin Systems, Andrew Morris was one of the key developers for much of Ultima 7. And so I kind of get the feeling that, A, these may be his handwritten notes, but then also B, at some point he may have been trying to compile some use code and stuff went wrong and it crashed him back to prompt with, the shit happens error message. I'm not entirely sure, but that's kind of what it looks like.
Right. That's what it gives me the impression of too, is that, if something went wrong in the data files and it crashed, his code basically says print shit happens on the screen. Along with the path, which, is useless information, but really incredible insight into the minds of the developers while they were making the games that we love.
Well, as someone who still codes for his own work occasionally, I build error handling and error messages into every piece of code that I write. And wherever I have, a print me an error message function, I make the text meaningful to me so that, I know that, because eventually I'm going to strip all of this out. Some of it I'll change and keep, but most of it I'm going to strip out or at least comment out once I'm done debugging.
And aside from you, Kenneth, are there other programmers in the group here?
Well, certainly Draxineth.
Draxineth.
Okay. Maybe it was an error that was received by Well, maybe someone else was working on it and got that error and had no clue what it means. So he printed it and brought it to the one who knew what really meant.
This is exactly what I'm hoping people are going to do, is chime in and give their opinions on this stuff, because it's all guesswork at this point. Yep. You know, but I love the fact, I mean, that is probably a really good idea. That's probably an interesting thought, that there has to be a reason that they printed this out on a piece of paper and then did handwritten notes on the back of it. So it sounds like you definitely
somebody else was compiling Andrew's use code and got the shit happens error message and printed it out and handed it to Andrew, and then later when he needed to take notes, he's like, oh well, here's paper. Right. Who knows?
Yeah, there's lots of interesting stories about that too. For Origin, there was a guy by the name of Herman Miller, I think.
Programming savant, Herman Miller.
Who was a programming savant, and Mike McShaffrey writes in his book, Game Coding Complete, he said, Herman Miller just happened to have the gift of perfect pitch. He could hear.
Yes, he also wrote a lot of the music.
Things. So what he would do is just what Kenneth and mainly many programmers do, is he did what he called pepper the code. Basically, in each section, he would put a note that if it crashed in that section, you could at least identify where the problem was in general. Is it in the data files? Is it in the executable? Is it in the programming code? Is it in this nested, list, and that kind of stuff. Well, apparently Herman would have it crash to a particular note. So when the code was being run, he'd just turn the audio on and you could just hear the computer going.
I remember this story from somewhere, but I can't remember where it was.
Probably Game Coding Complete, Mike McShaffrey's book.
I have the book
and when
over here.
It would stop on a tone and just play that incessantly, and he would go, that's a D, so that must be in the data files.
Yeah, except I don't think I actually have that book, Ken.
Well, somebody told the story. I mean, it's just, it's Origin lore.
And to be fair, like a lot of these stories it's the same with like a lot of the stories that end up in Explore Create, Official Book of Ultima. Like, in addition to the fact that they have been written down somewhere, they also just kind of have become folklore for the Ultima community, right? Because it's the same, like, Richard Garriott has told the story of, how he got his start selling Excalibur at Computerland. He's told it 1,000 times in a dozen different ways.
I hear that $200 comment one more time, I'm going to scream.
Right. But, the point is, like, in addition to the fact that these are written down in places and published in books, they've also been told word of mouth style again and again. And so, you've probably heard it somewhere, Helgraf. If not in a book, then in maybe Mike McShaffrey was talking about it somewhere, or maybe someone was relating the story somewhere, right? Like, these are the folklore of the community.
I might have heard it at the Dragon, like the UDIC Dragon Anniversary Bash from Richard himself, possibly.
Yeah?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
But yeah, programmers do that all the time, right? Because when you have to debug like 2,000 lines of code, it's helpful to narrow it down to at least, 100.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody realizes, but I have about 8 stories. I tell about 200 stories because most of those are rehashes of other things that other people told me. So I don't have many stories, but I collect everybody else's. But I never fob them off as my own. Okay, let's just try another one. I grabbed one of these. This is another one that Kenneth and I reviewed. And I can't remember, Kenneth, if this was considered scan-worthy or not. Has my camera focused enough to be able to see this?
Yeah, I can make it out. So it says final items list, right? So this, I think, is like basically sort of the final list of items that would have ended up, well, it says final. And of course, those of us who've done any kind of software development know that final is always in quotation marks.
Final is a relative term.
Final and latest final.
Yeah. Yeah, final is when you run out of budget and you're no longer issuing patches.
Final, definite, conclusive last.
Yeah.
Say final 5, final 6.
Version 1.2.
Yeah. 1.2. Yeah, exactly. So, but it claims to be the final item list. Now, to my mind, if this is the document I'm thinking of, initially I would have dismissed this out of hand because we already know all the Ultima 7 items.
We've seen them loads of times.
Yeah.
People have hacked this, and there is public documentation, developers doc already out on the internet.
Yeah, but there was one list you found, I think, that had some additional notes. And if this is not it, then this is the sort of document that, we would probably say, don't really bother with that. Because, if you need a list of everything that's in Ultima 9, Ultima 7, if you need a list of all the items in Ultima 7, well, guess what? The clue book is there, the wiki is there,
well, this is like a 7-page document, so I think I found what you were referencing, Kenneth.
No, I wasn't. Kind of. So, yeah, so this is a little bit different, right? Because now we're starting to get into notes about, you can see it for yourself there. Hopefully those of you, tuning into the video and, when we ultimately release this, you'll be able to see.
For the listeners of the podcast, why don't you read some of it?
So you're seeing, and again, my video feed, hotel internet is a bit crap, but so it's talking about how the gargoyle gold claw ring replaces the looks like old gold claw ring, and even things some of it is variable name changes. So what's being replaced, claw ring is one word, and here in the replacement variable name is claw _ring. Or there's the gold horn, can't quite make it out, but again, it's some of it is just, variable names, some of it is variable renames, but it kind of shows us just that even at the end of development in this list that, okay, I guess we'll treat as final, whether it was actually truly final, that may have been optimism on the part of whoever actually titled it. But it kind of gives us some insight.
Items. I remember there was a lot of items that were just called gargoyle jewelry, but nothing like
so maybe
or anything like that.
So that gives us some insight into just how legitimate the word final actually is. Because it's it's showing us that even as they're nearing, this is probably from very near the end of development, if they're actually using terminology like final, they're still making changes on the fly. Hey, this replaces that. This replaces that. And then, we know the game we ultimately got. And it's gargoyle jewelry is sort of the broad, the broad category that encompasses a few different items that you can find in the game. And
what I find so fascinating about this is that it really does nail down the specific aspects of collecting and the fandom in general. While there may be one or two people who are watching now or listening to the podcast in the immediate future who enjoy this, most everybody goes, well, this is not my cup of tea. I like playing the games. I don't know if I'm into digging down deep into the source code or the developer's documentation. But there is a group of people, a very passionate group of people, maybe only 50, maybe only 75 people on the planet Earth that live for this stuff. And their favorite thing in the world is to get lost in the pages of developers' docs to go, I never knew that it was originally called Gold Claw and now it's Golden Necklace or whatever. And I find that fascinating because I remember thinking they named it wrong, and now I find out they actually had a discussion about this kind of stuff. There are people that are so passionate about Ultima that they will dive headfirst into some of these pages, and I love those guys to death. I don't know enough about the deep down Ultima history, and I don't know enough about programming to be able to make decisions based on this kind of stuff, which is why I need everyone's help. I want to mention again that after this podcast, if we find the treasure and if there's anything that you are interested in, I will be scanning all this, and within the immediate future, Kenneth will be posting on the Ultima Codex website.
We will get it online. I think it's interesting too that, it kind of goes to show that at some level, the software development lifecycle doesn't change that much. Right up, even as you're right up almost across the finish line, there's still changes. There's still renames. There's still adjustments. Basically until you're issuing that initial gold master, everything is in flux. And
that's like the project I'm working on. We've redesigned the whole character system, I think, 4 times at this point. It's so dumb.
Software development life cycle.
Coming up with new ideas where it's like, oh no, this would be better, and then we talk about it, and then usually most of the time we all agree, but the fact that we keep changing our minds just gets old.
Well, and now, is there a Joe Garrity representative in your group, Bree, that basically goes? Is there one guy that's like, oh man, not again?
Oh yeah.
Don't name them.
Well, and I mean, to be fair, like this was Origin's great Achilles heel, like, you know, especially sort of in the years since the company shuttered, right? We've had all these great stories come to light about just how crazy the development process was at Origin, and how literally, like, you know, they would just like dive down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and eventually they'd need somebody, whether that was, you know, Robert Garriott or whoever, to basically come in and sit on everybody, just sit on all the creative people and say, are we publishing a thing? And if so, when?
There's that famous document from, I believe, Robert, that basically is a 1.5-page long document going, here is what we need everybody to know, to not bother Richard while he's finishing Ultima 5. And he gives explicit instructions on, if you need something, go to somebody else. Step 2, if you have to get Richard's input, write him an email and wait. If you absolutely need it right now, go in and time yourself and make sure it's not for more than 30 seconds. Stop distracting Richard. He needs to finish the game.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that, but then like even, you know, later on, like we've heard, you know, like Warren Spector's take on just how, you know, like they would just, again, like, yeah, or, you know, whether it's, you know, rewriting Ultima 9 4 times, starting from scratch a couple of times, or just like there was that, I think it was Escapist magazine that had, you know, the big expose on all of this, right?
Yes.
Where just, again, like the development process at Origin, you can't even call a process. It was just a complete cluster. And then, you know, occasionally they needed, again, like whether it was Robert Garriott or later EA, to basically just come in and sit on them and say, you need to publish something.
And the funny thing is, I hear this from so many indie studios where it's like 3-4 people only, where it's like, no, we keep rehashing the same thing so many times until someone does that.
And you know what, like that's the beauty of that's the beauty of the creative mindset. The problem is the creative mindset, untamed, will constantly reinvent and rethink and reimagine until all the money is gone and the finished product is still 2 years away, right? And so at some point,
one good thing for some of these teams where it's like, yeah, no, we're not making any money. Yeah. This is just a side thing.
Yeah. So, and then at some point, you know, if a product's actually going to get out the door, you need the one person in the room to basically be just like, we're shipping this or we're killing it. And, you know, as much as we hate, you know, the idea of a ship or kill thing happening, when you have that...
bleep or get off the pot.
Exactly, right? Exactly. It's exactly that. It's, you know, like, we're here to do a thing. And if we're not going to do the thing, let's just stop now.
Well, since we're talking about Ultima 7, and we were talking about Ultima 9, I believe that I can say with relative confidence that most of the people who will be listening to this podcast understand and know a bit, or many people know a great deal about Origin's history. And as we all know, the story of U9 and Origin was, as they say, a victim of its own success. And it took Ultima 9 was in development for so long because EA stumbled across the concept completely accidentally of UO being such a success. Origin pushed it, and EA didn't want to produce it. When they finally did, they realized a new cash cow was on the horizon and immediately gutted the Ultima 9 team to put them all on UO so they could maximize their profits. And they did this again and again, and that's why U9's development time was years.
And the thing that always confuses me is EA knew that Sierra Online was already doing an MMO. It had come out even a year before UO. And it's like, you've seen the success with Sierra. You've seen what they can do. Why is this not motivating them to just take the risk and compete? It just seems
I suspect that an untold part of that story may be the fact that EA probably did see, what was that, Meridian 59? Or no.
No, that was the Realm.
The Realm Online,
Sierra did.
The Realm Online. And Meridian
the other
59
one
was on the
competed really
too.
well too. Yeah.
Yeah, Meridian 59 and the Realm Online were both out there, but I suspect that a part of EA's hesitance may have been the fact that this was Origin itself that was pitching it, because I think EA kind of understood that, yeah, Origin produced some amazing product, especially out of the Wing Commander division, right? That was the real cash cow at the time of the acquisition. Wing Commander was the cash cow. Ultima was a nice side thing, but Wing Commander was the cash cow. And, I think some of EA's reluctance may have been the fact that it was the band of crazies at Origin that were trying to drive this thing, and it was less a reflection maybe of, EA may have had some doubts about their ability to succeed in a marketplace where there were already two strong entrants, but then also it may have reflected some early doubts about Origin.
And even EverQuest was even being rumored already at the time as being considered. So
yeah,
I don't have any facts, but what I believe is that mistakes were made on both sides. I mean, let's face it, give a bunch of starving artists who have really creative minds, but not enough change in their pockets for beer money, suddenly influx them with millions upon millions of dollars, and you can pretty much guarantee that some bad decisions will end up being made along the line. People who've never known wealth.
Even when they get older in their adult age and they get a couple million, it's like, nope, bad decisions.
We've all read those stories of the lottery winners, and So what are you going to do with the money? Hookers and blow, Tony. Hookers and blow.
Well, but Origin also had a tendency to. Origin had a very loose relationship with the idea that a budget was in any way a constraining thing. I'm reminded of something that I think we found this in the Origin archives. I know I've talked about it with Ben Lesnick as well. Chris Roberts' initial pitch document for Wing Commander 3 is a hilarious document to read because his estimated budget is $500,000.
And the history shows that Wing Commander 3 cost between 12 and 13 million in the end, and at the time it was considered the most expensive video game ever produced.
Yeah. So,
and in today's numbers, that is a pittance.
Mark Hamill was not going to charge a dime.
Yeah. And to be fair, Wing Commander 3 sold like absolute hotcakes, right? Like it made a pile of money.
It sold CD-ROM drives too.
Yeah. But, it just...
Origin pushing hardware sales? No.
Well, yeah, Origin just in general pushing hardware. Having to buy a new PC every time Origin's releasing a game. That's
totally not a thing that happens at all.
Anytime I saw Origin, announcing a new game that was going to be released within the next year, I ended up in Micro Center making sure that my machine was upgraded to be able to play it.
Or you wait till 6 months beforehand. It's like, buy.
Scampering down the upgrade path, But I actually brought up that comment originally because I want people tonight to keep in mind that many of these documents are actually dated. Maybe not with the year, but many with the date on it, which basically gives you a slice in time for the historical document to know exactly where they were on this particular date and what they were doing in the development process at that. Here's a perfect example of that. This is for Ultima 7, I believe. It doesn't say Ultima 7 on it, but Kenneth, you want to read the top line and then continue with this and give an idea?
Broad goals for September 15th. So, and the reason that we can actually tell that this is Ultima 7, most likely, is just some of the names. So, all NPCs on map. First name's a little fuzzy, but the second name is Raymond, right? Global layout, Zach. Raymond is almost certainly Raymond Benson, who was, of course, sort of the lead. He was sort of the main architect of Ultima 7's story, right? The one that he wasn't the only writer, but he was definitely the one pulling all the writers together and making sure that, they were telling one consistent story. He was also, I think, the major driving force. One of the reasons I think that Ultima 7 is held in such high praise in the Ultima fandom is the fact that it, more than any other game in the series, bar none, pays very strict attention to the lore of the games that preceded it, right? There's no other Ultima that does this to the level that Ultima 7 does.
Well, let me summarize very, very quickly. This document looks to me to be a handwritten notes on a team meeting from September 15th of whatever year for Ultima 7. I would imagine that this was 92 or 93. And it basically...
probably 90. If I had to guess, it was probably 91.
91, okay. And it basically slices out everybody's responsibilities. It's like, this guy, you work on that. He's working on this. She's working on this. So you can go through all this stuff. So please continue, Kenneth. I just wanted to make that clear to the audience.
Yeah. So again, so this is basically, and this is handwritten notes, who's going to be priorities, use, that's Eric's job, and
use code.
The use code, that's Eric's job. And Gumps, that's Zach and Jeff. Zach, by the way, is probably Zachary Booth Simpson. And Jeff, I'm a little less certain who that would be.
Jeff Morris?
It could be. Hang on.
Possibly.
Or Jeff, it could be Jeff D for that matter.
Right, it could be Jeff D. Gumps.
Gumps, that would make sense, right? Because Jeff D would have handled the art for that. So this is basically them having their weekly or monthly sprint meeting, and just okay, for the next build, all the NPCs need to be on map. Zach, Raymond, you're on that.
Now that's what I find so fascinating about this, and like I said, it's not for everybody, but for a select few who are programmers or developers themselves. Here is a snapshot in time of a team meeting for one of the greatest RPGs ever written.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's literally the exact same kind of notes we still take today.
Correct.
Regardless of industry.
You just find it fascinating. So this, I mean, I know some people may think I'm blowing it out of proportion when I refer to these as historical documents, but to a select few, there are some folks that will eat this up and just say, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I have always wanted to know what was going on in the minds of these developers in their day-to-day workings.
Well, I always remind people of this. You look at primary source documents in the history field in general. 80% of what you see is going to be boring as heck, but it's fascinating stuff just into the day-to-day lives of every single person involved with it, whether it's political documents, business documents, military, you name it.
Well, there was a fascinating thought experiment that I heard about, actually. It's if you had to pick, you can save one document, okay? You can save one book. You can put it in a small time capsule and save it so that people 1,000 years from now can open the time capsule and have a snapshot into what life was like in 2020.
That's correct.
Do you put the Sears catalog or President Obama's memoirs?
It's a hard toss-up. It sounds really silly, but that's a hard decision to make.
For me, it's actually an easy one because the Sears catalog is going to tell you a hell of a lot more about the day-to-day life of people in 2021 than the memoirs of a single president, right?
Yep.
The Sears catalog is going to show you what we wore, and it's going to show you, because Sears kind of
going to have masks in it. It's going to have weird masks.
Furniture, appliances. It's going to have a snapshot of a significant portion of the normalcy of our life, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that young children may be impressed by President Obama's historical decisions while he was president, but many more of them are going to go, hey, great grandpa, what is a G.I. Joe action figure?
Well, my kids just found the Starcoms at my folks' place, so.
Okay, here's another interesting example of this. Now, this is where we get into the decision-making process as a group.
Yeah.
What I'm holding in my hand is a long one-sheet tractor feed printout from a dot matrix printer, but I find it fascinating to look at this document because it's the original 9-pin dot matrix printer printout, and it's all one long sheet. This just lifting this will make everybody in the room start laughing.
Oh yeah!
Oh god! It's like looking at invoice info.
That's the stuff. Yeah.
The horror.
So like I said, while this has already been published, I'm very torn, saying, well, do people think that it's interesting enough to show for historical reference? Is it worth me ripping this apart so that I can put it in my scanner and get it in? Now, some of these are highlighted in yellow. Why? I don't know. The document does not say.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the dot matrix doesn't show up so good on the webcam. So, like, what's that top one that's highlighted, for example? Like I say, I can't quite make it out. Maybe somebody else can, but
no,
Joe, just
it's
read
a
it
little
off.
Blurry.
Yeah, it's dot matrix ink on a webcam. It's not the best. Joe, read out that first highlighted one you see.
Iron bars, number 264. Another highlighted one is _Rowena _S _ring, which is item 295.
Oh, Rowena's ring.
So some of these, and blowing through it, it's about 15 pages long.
Those are both Scara Bray items.
Yep.
The iron bars used to make the soul cage.
Yeah.
Honey,
and Rowena's wing that you use to snap the blacksmith out of it so you can actually do that.
What else is highlighted?
My point is that I'm kind of torn. I don't know if I'm going to scan this one because I don't know if people would really be into it. Kenneth, do you have comments underneath of your SSH podcasts? If anybody listening to this says, oh my gosh, I want to see that with my own eyes, post a comment.
Yep. There's always you can comment in like 3 different places, right? Because like the episodes go up on Facebook, they go up on the website, they go up on the Ultima Codex.
Your choice. If you are passionate enough that you absolutely, without a doubt, have to see that, drop a comment at Ultima Codex, and I'll make the extra effort between taking care of my dogs and my wife and family to rip this apart and scan it to share with the world. All right.
Yeah. So I'm a little curious. But yeah, we'll see what the community says. We'll put that one up for a vote.
Again, here's another one that I find very, very interesting. You guys are going to have to physically stop me when you get tired because I could do this all night.
Yeah, I'm sure you could. It's only 10 o'clock here.
Kenneth, can you show this at all? Can you?
It's a little blurry for me. It's a little blurry for me.
Let's see if I can bring it up close and maybe adjust.
The webcam is just betraying you today, Joe. Sorry. You know what? Why don't you read the top of it, Joe, and we can comment from there.
This is Dev Doc that says join party conditions. It looks like instructions to the developers. It says you need to add to your potential party member NPCs the following joining conditions. Possible party members are YOLO, Shamino, Dupre, Spark, Jana, Julia, Sanshrey, Katrina, Sarah Med, Trellick, Rowena, Forsyth, we all know that. Maximum number of entire party is 9, Avatar plus 8 members, and we all know this, right? But it needed to be documented and written down at the time.
Hang on, stop.
Wasn't it 6 members?
7.
It was tweaked.
Yeah, certain
it was. They may have changed that. Originally, it was Avatar plus 8 members.
Can you page ahead and look for any conditions pertaining to Trellick?
Yes. Trellick joins anytime the party is less than 9, but will not join if Saramed is in the party. I don't travel with imp killers. And that's all it says there.
Now that is interesting.
And some of these have red pen X's next to certain conditions, so perhaps they took those out before the final.
Well, Trellick never was able to join the party in the published game, right?
So that makes this document publish-worthy, right? This is scan-worthy for Joe, right?
Oh, yeah. So, at that point, because like that gives us some insight into, like we knew that there was.
You mentioned Rowena?
Yeah, we knew there was more to that character, but it was just gone.
Yeah,
like not in the game.
Well, Rowena was in the previous document there, Draxneth. This is talking about like the NPCs that were recruitable.
Right. And Rowena joins the party if the party is less than 9. So
Rowena's on the list too? Oh, shoot.
Yeah, there's no conditions next to Rowena. Joins if party is less than 9. Forsyth joins if party is less than 9. Saramed joins party anytime if party is less than 9, but will not join if Trellick is in the party. I don't travel with monkeys, is the response that he will give.
That is
that's a good line. I like that.
Trey joins the party anytime the party is less than 6. Otherwise says, thou art traveling with a crowd too large for my tastes.
Yes, and he does that, and certain of the people do that.
Right, Katrina does the same. But I just find that's it's an interesting insight, and unfortunately, this doesn't look to be dated. But I find the dates to be incredibly significant because you can get a feel of what was going on, and it's like and I like to step back and go, oh my gosh, this was 2 days before the 4th of July, so they must have been getting ready to go to a party with the families and friends, and they're elbow deep in this kind of stuff. So I like to look at it from a historical perspective and go, what was happening around that particular time?
Well, and
I just find it interesting. It's confirmation of assumptions some of us made of, we thought certain things were maybe being done in the game, but just never made it for some reason.
Now, also keep in mind, much of the Ultima 7 developers' documentation has been scanned and posted to the internet by other great people. I don't know who they are or their names, and I would hate to not give credit to these people. So if this has already been published, and
I'm not aware of this,
or you know who did publish it already, why don't you give them full credit down at the bottom of the, of the article that
the only thing I know of was some documents that talked about some content being cut, but never anything too specific.
All right. Well, I got a feeling this is scan worthy. That goes on the pile. Am I correct?
I think so, because what's interesting to me too is there's an animus between Saramed and Trellick that I don't Saramed is one of my mains when I play Ultima 7, and I can't think of anything in his dialogue that indicates any kind of animosity towards the imps.
Well, we know that Saramed has a lot of animosity towards a lot of people. He was named after Ken Demarest, who I hear through the grapevine sometimes can have a lot of animosity toward people.
Did Ken Demarest have a particularly bad relationship with Herman Miller? Because Trellick is...
I don't know specifically, but I know that Ken sometimes could have people rub him the wrong way. He was
Trellick.
He was a master of the minutia. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
As a and very well needed on the team and a great asset. But hey, people have temperaments. We all do. Yeah. And sometimes the color of somebody's socks will set me off.
Because Trellick is Herman Miller.
That I did not know.
Yeah.
Origin's first official employee and longest employee. He was one of the last ones to leave as well. Okay. Here's one that I find fascinating, but I have no idea what it is. For our listeners, this is actually green graph paper that is written in very high quality pen and someone's absolutely gorgeous penmanship that they are doing some kind of notes on code. Kenneth, do you think you can read that and maybe come up with something as to what this could be?
Well, I mean, broadly speaking, this is what I would call pseudocode. Yeah, it's a little hard to read, but basically it's pseudocode, and it's trying to... Yeah, again, I can't quite make out exactly what's being said in it, but it's pseudocode and it's handwritten, which again, going back to some of the earlier handwritten notes, sort of suggests that this is probably the result of a couple of people sitting down and spitballing ideas, because and I see a few different things. There's a confirm or a convert item there. It's talking about markers over there. So it's this is obviously two people who are sitting down and just spitballing ideas, and then one of them is probably writing down the end result of what they've come up with. Or alternatively, it could just be someone sitting at their desk and pondering. It's okay, how do I do this?
Correct. But what cracks me up is that their thought process is clear on the page, and I'll read some of it in a second, but I can't help but comment again that their penmanship is just amazing on here, and they write so much like a coder, and it's amazing. This says at betting semi. Bet equals ask bar input 0 to 110 semi. Thou wouldst bet gold what Sprelic will win. Confirm, ask yes, no, semi. And then on the side it says, if bet equals 0, perhaps thou art smarter than thou dost look. In that case, mayhaps thou should speak to Daphne. Her odds may be more to thy taste. So this is obviously about, the gambling portion in U7. If confirmed, very well, here are thy markers, things like that. If not markers, thou must return later with the room. So this is basically how the gambling works in Ultima 7. If got cash is less than bet, thou dost not possess that much gold. Speak to me again when thou dost honestly wish to place a wager. Now, this obviously isn't the final code, but this is off the top of the head of someone basically going, they were probably discussing gambling, and he went, I could write a quickie subroutine on that.
It's the use code for some conversation, tree.
Wait a sec. Sprelic. So,
wasn't he the guy in Jalome?
Yes, he is.
Right, the casino, right?
No, Jalome is not where the casino is. The casino is in Buckingham.
Oh,
he was the guy.
Did he get murdered?
No, he was the guy who the false flag operation. He was the guy who got who was accused, who was said was going to end up fighting all three of those duels.
The fake avatar.
Yeah, because he took the honor flag on accident, or kind of.
The honor flag without realizing the consequences.
Yes.
So could this be some non-used code ideas?
This seems more like it's unused because I don't recall. Could you gamble in Jalom?
Could you bet on the outcome of Sprelic's duels? I think you could.
Sprelic is mentioned doesn't necessarily mean this is Jalom.
Well, but Sprelic only appears in Jalom.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember
the problem of trying to think, but nothing happens.
Thou wouldst bet gold that Sprelic will win.
Yeah, if you did not step in for him, I think there was a dialogue outlog where you could bet on whether Sprelic would survive his duels.
That's what this probably is. Chits, party betting markers, no quality all. Bet paid, give party winnings, gold, no quality all true. Now, like I said, this is a grain of sand in the Ultima 7 code, but I love the fact that just showing this simple piece of paper got the whole room excited over this kind of stuff. This is definitely scan-worthy. That's going on the scan me pile for sure, right?
Oh, yeah.
If just our little party of adventurers in this group finds that interesting, I got a feeling there's going to be 10 salivating guys
here we
wanting
go.
to see more.
Here we go. I found it on the. It's in the cheating section.
It's in cheating?
On the cheating section of the Ultima Wiki, cheating in Ultima 7. Slightly illegal ways to make lots of cash. The Jalom duel. If you choose to defend Sprelic, you can bet money on the outcome. You have to kill one or all of the duelists to collect on the bet, however. If you solve the quest peacefully, you cannot collect the money unless you find a way to kill at least one duelist. Such as using Time Stop and then Death Bolt to kill them without anyone noticing. Later on, you can resurrect them after collecting the money. So,
which obviously we would never do.
Right.
This is just like the slightly efficient version of killing them softly in Serpent Isle.
Okay.
Or Ultima 6.
Well, yeah, Ultima 6 had ways of doing it as well. It's true.
Well, you had to be super careful about that in Ultima 6 because if you killed them hard, you could resurrect them, and they would just be zombies.
Brain dead. Yes.
Yeah.
They're the coming back from the land of the dead did not work well.
Yeah, you got you were able to power on the hardware and load the firmware, but the software
was fried.
Ain't Putin anymore. Yeah.
Did I mention that any of these documents can be scanned and printed onto a T-shirt of your choice for $9.99, courtesy of the Send check or money order to the Origin Museum. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
$9.99 for a T-shirt, man.
Although that handwritten code, wouldn't that look
you
really
actually
cool
going to make a profit there?
Wouldn't that look really cool in a T-shirt? The Ultima 7 logo on the back and that handwritten code on the front. That would just be. All right, maybe it's just me. Never mind.
I have one regret. I have a regret. And it just didn't work with our schedule. But when our family decided to take the blowout vacation in 2019 to Legoland and San Jose and Disneyland and whatever else,
considering future events,
right? I regret not, and again, not that we could have made it work. That our schedule was too constrained. But I regret not reaching out to Bill Randolph because he's kind of in the Anaheim area, and just like arranging a meetup. But if I had done so, my plan at one point would have been to go into the Ultima 9 source code and find the function he wrote to control the swaying of the signs.
Neat.
And I was going to print that out and frame it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it never happened. But I, of the few things of the few opportunities I've had to meet with actual X-Origin people, that is one that I regret not having an opportunity to capitalize on. Because
if you don't mind me commenting on that, framing is very good. T-shirt is better. He'd wear a T-shirt. He would.
That's true. That's true. If the function was small enough that it could fit on the on a T-shirt, that would have been an excellent idea.
Wonderful. All right. This one is interesting, again, from just a historical standpoint. It touches all the touchstones. I'm going to hold this up, but nobody's going to be able to see it very clearly because this is a dot matrix printout that is incredibly faded, so it probably won't even show up on camera. That is an email that says, to A. Morris from R. Benson, subject, new type names, date 10/4/91. Looks like CC'd to Beth Miller and Jack Herman. Okay. The following types are changed. Please make the changes in your shops and all that are affected so that they'll compile when the game is made. Axe 2H, formerly two-handed axe. Hammer _2H, formerly two-handed hammer. Sword, decorative, formerly decorative sword. And the list continues with a couple more. Additionally, the NPC boy, the child nudist, has been cut. The mama may be cut as well if the editor isn't fixed. In parentheses, if it'll only accept 255 NPCs for some strange reason. Jack should be on Conversations again this weekend, but today he's still on Docs. Beth and Andrew should make the above corrections in Jack's convos today. Dungeon Convo writers, you need to have a good idea of what's going to happen in your dungeons beginning early next week, say Monday. So it looks to me as though, the conversations as of October of 91 weren't really fleshed out at the time.
No, they would have still been working on that. And oftentimes in game development, those things are kind of, we saw that again with Ultima 9. The thing that was interesting to me there is the cut character.
Child.
Because Papa and Mama were the two nudists. Living
the tax evaders. Let's be honest here.
Yes, living in the bee cave. And Mama's real name, by the way, is evidently Myrtle. Papa's name is evidently Murray. But what's interesting to me is that, and I'm just looking at the Ultima Wiki now to make sure that we didn't know this. But the interesting thing to me is that the initial plan was for them to have a kid.
Very interesting. So there's no child in Bee Cave? There's no nudist kid? There is, isn't there?
Nope, there is not. There's Mama and Papa.
Okay.
And there's no odd dialogues that would make it seem like there was once a child either. So that apparently got correctly cleaned up.
Yes, that was apparently, probably, given what else we see in this email, they probably hadn't even written the dialogue for Mama and Papa yet.
Oh, okay, fair.
But wait, there's more. Dungeons beginning early next week. Say Monday, and then in parentheses, ha. The reason being is that when Bruce starts creating the dungeons, each of us will sit with him as he builds them and create the places together. So you need to kind of know what your people are doing. If you share a dungeon with another writer sometime today, get with that writer and talk about it. Try to come up with an agreeable plan of action, whether your people's stories are interrelated, etc. Additionally, today, please stub your new NPCs. I don't know what that means. In other words, create a usable number, blank line, and write a bit of text just so they'll compile so we can click on them in the next game.
Yeah, so a stub just means like a placeholder, basically.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it's signed to RB, which is R. Benson. So, like I said, these are the most fascinating to me. And like I said, it's very faded. It's old and you can barely read it. But of course, I'll correct the contrast in the scan. But I believe this is definitely scan worthy because it's a snapshot in time. It's what the writers were thinking about at that particular moment. And if anybody understands and realizes, this is dated October 4th, 1991.
I think that's going to make some work for Phoenix and the Wiki team because they're going to have to go in and update the Mama and Papa entries to note that at one point, at least as prior to April of 1991, the plan was for Mama and Papa to have a child, but the child was cut, evidently due to the fact that the game engine could only support some maximum number of NPCs, and they evidently made the decision that in order to support probably some other NPC that they needed for plot reasons, it's like, well, okay, we can cut Mama and Papa's kid.
And I love the fact that my research
limitations.
Yep.
I love the
limitation of 8-bit indexing.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying, Joe.
This research will end up causing people that I don't know personally a lot of extra work, and
not a lot, but it'll be they'll have to go back and update the Mama and Papa descriptions on the wiki with an extra little bullet point in their additional notes, because all that's left is the only reference in the code. Or the only reference that's left to a kid in Mama and Papa's dialogue is a reference to the act that would eventually lead to them having one, shall we say?
Okay. I hope everybody's enjoying this. If you're not, tune in next week for some more enjoyable conversations.
Yeah, tune in when I do maybe another reading of Through the Moongate or something. But
far more interesting than this in some ways.
I don't know.
Okay. So, next doc.
What do you got?
This is not handwritten. It's typed up, and the title of it is Andrew's Needs as of 10/21/91. Also keep in mind that this is very significant because this is both this and the last document were in the middle of October, and as we all know, this happens to be the time that Richard Garrity is having his Halloween bash, his great big haunted house that he's been setting up, that some of the names in here, including Andrew, including Beth, I believe, were really big and involved in some of these terrific spook houses, and they were working for 2 months on their own time for no money to create those incredible spook houses that we've all heard through the grapevine and how fascinating they were. So these people were overworked, not only through their normal jobs at Origin, but they were also doing volunteer work to come up with spook houses. I love when people
at the boss's Halloween party.
Yeah, back when we were young and able to run fast. So Andrew's Needs as of 10/21/91. Thad needs the trigger to make him seek out and attack the party if they are Fellowship members. Bullet. Every character in Scarabray needs to have the flag set by the Seance spell. No, the ferryman needs to take the party to and from Scarabray. Jim knows about this. He has it written down. Trent's Scarbray Make Cage routine is, according to Jim, already completed. Does anybody know what the Make Cage routine might be?
Making the soul cage that you use to trap torrents.
Very good. Good get, Helgraf. Forsyth Scarbray Destroy Well routine is, according to Jim, already completed. The sextant coordinates for Serpent's Hold are mentioned in Denton's conversation. Once the map is official, I'll need to insert these. Brian and Nelson need the appropriate items that are mentioned in their conversations placed, and also the function that checks if they're near needs to be implemented. Oh, if they're near needs to be implemented. The IS-10 inventory needs to be implemented so the EMPs of you can check the party for honey. And we all know that routine. Now, like I said, is this interesting? Yes. Is it needed? I don't know. It's one sheet, so I think I'll scan it, but
it's a quick one for you.
Yeah, it's a fun little idea of, like I said, you get to see in depth what's going on in the minds of these people. That this is obviously some kind of notation to make sure everybody gets it, because these are the dangling participles in regard to my job that I need completed in order to finish my work. So I love that. Anyway.
So, I've never actually... I can't think of ever actually having encountered the character of Thad in Ultima 7. But evidently he can be found in the forests in and around you. And yes, he will automatically attack the party if you're wearing the Fellowship Medallion. What I find interesting about this document is... if I look at the credits for Ultima 7 on a site like Moby Games, right? Andrew Morris, under, if you look at the Ultima 7 credits, writing, dialogue, story, you got Raymond Benson, Jack Herman, Mary Beth Miller, Andrew Morris, John Watson. So just to look at the credits for Ultima 7, and to look for where Andrew Morris is on the list. Because I'm assuming that this is Andrew Morris and not Andrew Hoffman, who was one of the QA people.
Definitely Morris.
To look at the credits, you wouldn't think that Andrew Morris was a particularly significant cog in the wheel. But to see a document like this, you realize that, no, in fact, the man had a significant pull within the dev team, enough that he's able to basically, issue a document saying, these are my needs within this time frame.
You will meet them.
Yeah. Which, that tells me a lot more, right? Because it's very easy to just look at game credits and see any individual person's name on there. And maybe they're not even the first person on the list in whatever category they're listed under. But then you get a look behind the scenes like this, you pull the curtain back a little bit, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, shoot, that dude was a heavy hitter.
And you also have to take into consideration the way these things are written. They're written very nicely, very professionally, very kindly, and I don't know about you, but in my job, I sometimes get emails much like this, but they're not nearly written as cleanly and as nicely. And what goes through your mind is, why should I stop everything that I'm doing to make sure that you are able to do your job? I got my own job to do.
Yeah.
So you have to keep that in mind as well, that all these people we know for a fact were at the minimum horribly overworked. So you have to think about how these emails are being received as well.
There is that.
Okay, next doc, if we should continue. Oh, this one's
We'll
fun.
go a little longer at any rate. What do you got?
All right. Yeah, like I said, please let me know when to stop, because I could do this all day.
Well, let's at least go for 15 more minutes, and then we'll do a check on everybody's sanity and conscious levels.
All right.
That sanity left a long time ago.
Consciousness, then.
I'm back. Sorry, a phone call kind of distracted me.
And I don't normally drink, and I'm on my second shot of Zacapa, so this could take a downward spiral at any moment.
Yeah, I'm 2 shots of Jameson and half a cup of wine here, so see how long this goes.
Coke Zero and Diet Cranberry.
Yeah.
And the IPA I had over supper was...
As long as we're on the subject, I love you guys. I really love you guys.
And the IPA I had over supper was really punchy. Okay, go on, Joe.
This looks to be a fax from February 19th, 1992 from Russell DeMaria.
That's a lot closer to release date.
It has a handwritten name of Andrew on it. And it says, David, here's the original. It's 28 lines long. There once was a maid, Ariana. She kept the shrine so dear. She left a legacy to her offspring. Keep the shrine so every year. Does anybody know the context of this?
Sounds like just instructions to Nastasia in Cove.
Yeah, it sounds like a poem.
Probably from, I'm guessing, her deceased mother or whoever attended the shrine prior to her. I don't know what the exact relationship was there.
Maybe the gravestones. Her son Mikhail became mayor with a goal to keep in fashion the town's old beloved reputation as the city of love and passion.
Somebody spoke with this meter. Somebody you met in Cove.
Oh.
I can't remember who the person was, but there was absolutely someone there who spoke like in this
while
fashion.
I'm speaking, Kenneth. Her daughter Nadia did wed one day to Julius, a not too wealthy young lad. He left her with child and went far away, and as for her heart, it was sad. I want to start singing these. And then one day from you, the faithful news came that Julius by beast was killed. The child came early, 'twas a difficult birth, and Nadia's soul became chilled.
So,
any striking a chord?
Okay, so Nastasia's father was indeed named Julius. I don't know. Okay.
Oh, it says, here's the original. It's 28 lines long, and it all continues.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the right column, it says, here's what I did with it. It's 32 lines long, and it's obviously a document how they cleaned up the, obviously the writing and the pentameter, probably. The last one I read, I can see what the changes were. A poor boy named Julius wed her and left her one day great with child. Then from you there did come a sad letter that Julius died in the wild. So
yeah, he actually got the rhyme scheme right in that version.
Right. Yeah, he cleaned up the language, cleaned up the pentameter, and rolled on it. And like I said, this is DeMaria, who is Russell DeMaria. Yes, is that correct?
Writer of the Ultimate Avatar Adventures.
Do you think that's right, Kenneth?
So DeMaria, he is yes, he is named for Russell DeMaria. He's a character in Ultima 7. He's in Cove. He is the bard that frequents the tavern there.
It says Russell suggested switch for DeMaria's poem.
Hang on a sec.
So it looked like Russell sent a fax correcting some of this information. Now,
just a minute.
Russell DeMaria wasn't on the Ultima 17, was he?
Give me a second. He was not. So
just give me some time.
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping between like 4 different tabs here right now. So no, Russell DeMaria was not directly on the Ultima 7 team. He was the author of strategy guides for Ultima and a bunch of other games. Many. But
Questbusters was his claim to fame, yeah?
I think so.
Was he Questbusters or Quest for Clues?
He's part of the Questbusters series, yes, Quest for Clues. Questbusters was the quarterly newsletter he produced for all gamers like us pre-internet days to get mailings of game clues to help you through many different games, not just Origin.
He also did a bunch of the high score books.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote Ultima Online Strategies and Secrets, Prince of Persia, the official strategy guide, the Seventh Guest official strategy guide.
High Score, many of the photographs in High Score of Origin games were courtesy of the Origin Museum. Thank you very much. And he spelled Origin Museum and my name wrong in the credits. God bless his heart.
silly man. So yeah, it looks like he's had a lot of different stuff that he's
he has.
Like, if you look on, like, I'm just kind of going through books.google.com right now, and like it's pages and pages and pages of stuff that he has either written or contributed to, or like Carmen Sandiego. My gosh, like this guy covered, what game didn't this guy cover back in the day?
Unbelievable amount of credits, and the rumor mill says that there was a day where he just decided that he was going to stop doing that writing and become a professional gambler in Vegas. And apparently did very well.
That work out?
Apparently he did very well. He did all right.
Well, there you go. Just give me a sec. I just want to see if, because yes, the oh goodness, really? Wow. Some of these old, okay, so hang on. I'm just quickly going through the, yes. So it looks like, it looks like they were back and forthing about, so yeah, Demaria, if you actually press him, will sing you the song about, Nastasia.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of an interesting historical item there. So the Ariana that is mentioned in the song, and this is something that was already known, but the Ariana that's mentioned in the song is she's the daughter. She appears in Ultima 6. She's the daughter of the proprietors of the Blue Boar Tavern in Britain in Ultima 6, and she's the little girl who is at the.
Is she the deaf girl?
No. She's the little girl who is training with Kenneth the Bard at the academy or whatever it is.
His father.
The conservatory.
Right.
Conservatory,
and there's a lady there who has the fear of
she
spiders.
The bearer of the rune of compassion?
And she's the one who gives you the rune of compassion. Yes.
So Kenneth and Lady Nan.
And I love this document because it's a one-pager, it's a fax, and it gives a little insight that Russell DeMaria was definitely not one of the developers of the Ultima 17, but it's well known through Ultima lore that Garrett and the team used to implant people as a way of saying thank you for their contributions to things. So Russell was doing all of the Questbusters series and the Quest for Clues and all of the Origin clue books that were coming out on that time. This may be a way of thanking him to say, here is, your mention in Ultima 7 as a way of saying thanks. They sent it to him, and being the writer that he is, he said, I don't like it. I've edited it and I've cleaned it up and I've added a bit more. Here you go.
Nice.
So, like I said, I find these fascinating, particularly because there's a date on this. So you can see exactly where in the cycle this was put in.
February of 92, you said?
Yeah, so that gives a definite mode of knowing that this was probably crunch time. Right?
Yeah, well, yeah, because Ultima 7 came out in April of 92.
Right.
So this was finish line stuff, man.
So on top of those guys trying to get finals coming in to meet the release date, here comes somebody else who, this is insignificant based on the importance of the use code, and they have to stop what they're doing to add this kind of information to it. So that's fascinating. That's going,
and especially because, this is the day where you pay for every kilobyte. There
you go.
Every kilobyte you agonize over. But equally, if they did, and I'll have to compare what's in that document to the final transcript in the game, because if they did include his changes, as costly as that was in terms of development time,
I'm pretty sure they did. The second line sounded more familiar to me, like something I'd run into before, almost certainly while playing the game.
Yeah. So, and I mean, if they did undertake the effort to incorporate it, then that goes to show just the level to which they wanted to credit this guy for the work that he had done already.
Yeah, you might be more familiar with the updated version if I read stanza 1. There once was a maid Ariana who'd held the shrine so dear, and she asked that her children would follow and keep the shrine year by year.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. If you read the first one of the final, everybody goes, oh, yeah, I think I might remember that. All right. So, there's, like I said, there's lots more. We have done nothing but scratch the surface on this kind of stuff. So I think we actually did find the treasure on a lot of these things.
Yeah, I think there's a few there that are definitely going to have to make their way onto the gallery.
And now the new feature of SSSH that we are implementing starting this episode, it's naked time.
No.
All right.
Quick, disconnect.
Run away!
Wow, I have never seen a channel empty out so fast.
I value my eyesight. It's bad enough already.
We're all friends here. So the rum
friends. That's an important word.
Look, it's one thing if we had been camping in the woods for 2 weeks, but
we're not that close, mate.
Yeah, at least geographically.
We might be spiritually close, but at least I have no great desire to become physically close in that fashion.
No.
All right. That was the signal that I'm getting tired.
Yeah, no, that's good. I think this is actually a good stop point because we've already amassed several documents, and yeah, I mean, if we get some of them scanned,
we've been here 2 hours and a half.
Yeah, and I mean, some of this is definitely like there's a lot of preamble. There will actually be preamble for this episode, but I think this is a good stop point for now. And that gives you a few things to scan. I just published through the Moongate reading last week, so I'm not obligated to publish another spam Humbug episode for at least a week. So if you scan even one of those things and send it to me, Joe, then I can release it simultaneous with this episode.
That sounds wonderful. I can do that this evening or tomorrow. This evening might be
tomorrow is totally fine. I am totally fine with that.
But to your fans and your listeners, if you find this stuff fascinating, please comment and say, hey, Joe needs to get drunk again and do another one of these. And we like this information and continue. If you don't like it, say that too. So you can open up a little free time for Kenneth to do more important things.
Yes, because I have so many of those. Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Joe. This was awesome. I love digging through these boxes.
I missed this. I missed doing things like this.
It's always a good time.
If you want to join the Ultima Dragons, you can do so at udic.org, where you can choose your very own dragon name. You can also find the Ultima Dragons on Facebook. We have a Facebook group there. And you can follow at Ultima Dragons on Twitter, or join them on Discord. And if you're feeling really old school, you can even fire up a Telnet client and check out the Weremount. Hit up the show notes for links to all of these. If you want to participate more directly in the podcast, you can send us an email, or if you're feeling a little bit braver, leave us a voice message in one of 3 places: the podcast website, our Facebook page, or on anchor.fm. And you're also welcome to join us on our Discord server to chat with us, to lurk, or even contribute to podcast recordings when they happen. And again, links in the show notes. If you'd like to support Spam Humbug, you can do so at patreon.com/ultimacodex, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get access to episodes the day before they go live to the general public. You'll also get access to behind-the-scenes audio when we have some to share, and possibly other interesting content. But we also welcome your moral support. You can like the Ultima series on Facebook, follow at Ultima Codex on Twitter, or leave the podcast a review on iTunes. And you're also welcome to share our episodes with your friends and social media circles. Spam Humbug is a production of the Ultima Codex. You can find show notes online at spamhumbug.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time, be virtuous.